So before I actually get into the detail, I'd like everyone in the group to reflect on, so because we're talking about goals, is for you to start to think about, and if you feel comfortable to share, and I can see that you're great at using the chat, is what's one small improvement that you might want to make? So I've put it here that it's in the context of managing arthritis. There might be some people in the group where that's not the focus, but just one small improvement that you would like to make in your life. So I'll just give you a minute to think about that, and then if you feel comfortable to then put that into the chat.
Got really bad osteo in my toe and my MTP joint, and
Yeah.
it just cripples me. Like it's as
Oh,
someone who used to be really active and just trying to adapt.
yeah.
Really hard.
Get it started.
Yeah.
Yep. And thank you, Kerry. Building muscle strength in your legs. Yep. Reducing pain by sticking to diet requirements. Joy, well done. Shalene, got balancing work. More time for exercise. Yes, that so resonates for me. Yep, much more exercise. Perfect. Okay. So I think we'll move on, and the reason why I'm getting you to think about that earlier on in the workshop is because it's just helpful as I move through some of the techniques and the tips that I'd like to put forward. You could think about what actually resonates for you, what might be useful. When it comes to making changes in our life, different things resonate for different people in terms of techniques. So one thing might stand out for you, but for someone else, it just might not be, I don't want to say as relevant, but as important for you as that other person. So it's really, it's good as a starting point to think about what actually do I want to be different. So because when we talk about goal setting, actually, I just want to put it out there. It's actually not straightforward. We're pretty good at setting goals or thinking about what we want to be different, but actually implementing the change is not easy. And what we say that change is hard. That humans, we are hardwired actually to resist change. That we, as humans, we love routine. So when change comes, mostly. So when I talk about these are generalizations, but mostly when change comes along, the body perceives it as a threat because we've got routines in place. And so, and people can resist that change in different ways. So we just see, procrastination or, mainly I would say a lot of procrastination. But there's certain challenges that we face, and there are a range of them. So just going to share this as humans. These are the typical challenges that we might expect to see. So what might be, useful for us, just as we work through this, is just to get a bit of a sense for the group about what might be your biggest challenges. So I've just listed, these are pretty much the top 7, I think, that, we'd expect to see. So when you set goals, the first one, who finds it hard to stay motivated over time? Who, in terms of setting goals, what might, see a few nodding heads, the motivation. What do people reckon? That who feels unsure about how to set realistic and achievable goals? Is that, a couple of nodding heads. What about feeling overwhelmed and don't know where to start? Maybe, What about your arthritis symptoms make it difficult for you to follow through? Okay, for some people, we're ticking all the boxes. I struggle to find the time or energy to work on my goals. What about I don't have the support or accountability? Maybe, And final one, I don't know how to measure my progress. Maybe. So these are all, typical things. So I guess the first thing, I just want to put it out there, just be kind to yourself around this, that this is not easy. And, we've seen this pattern for most of us. We get to the new year, we have New Year resolutions, as Tori said. We've got really good intentions, but actually when the proof in the pudding, actually it's really difficult. And we look back and think, well, I didn't really get onto that. I had a bit of an idea of where I wanted to go, but that didn't happen. So what I'm just going to share now is just some key things around, what is useful and helpful when we're trying to actually set some goals and achieve them. So the first thing is, and it might sound pretty straightforward, but you need to have a plan, because if you don't know where you're going, anywhere will do. Is what the line is. So what that means is that you actually have to put some thought into how you're going to achieve that. So if it is around, fitness, well-being, energy, you actually have to break it down. That's the starting point, that it has to be, broader than just a thought. You need to think about what are some sub-goals. And also in that, what it requires you is to just get a bit more specific about what this goal actually looks like. So I've got an example, on the screen to talk through. But first thing is, if anyone's heard this before, we talk about the SMART criteria. We break that down into it's an acronym. So the first thing is focus on what you want to achieve. So you have to really narrow it down. The next thing is that you want to be able to track progress, because it's motivating when we know how far we've come. Sometimes we really underrate the progress that we've made, and we need to be able to track it. The third thing is we need to be realistic about what's possible, and I think this really is an area that can trap us, because often we come up with these big plans, but really in the scheme of things, is that absolutely possible? So we really need to think about, what can we fit in with everything else that, we've got going on in our lives. And I think that's when it gets to relevant, is that it has to fit with, with a wider, our other personal needs and what's going on for us in our lives. So I guess relevant and realistic would be how I would look at it. The other thing is time bound, because often, when it's too broad and, too high level, it just goes on and on. But if we set some, deadlines, or we make it time bound, then actually we're making ourselves a lot more accountable around that. So here I've just got an example of it. A couple of you have talked about, mobility, and maybe that's about identifying that, hey, I need to walk more. Well, here's an example of, a SMART sub-goal, which is walk for 10 minutes 3 times a week for the next month to improve my joint mobility. So I'm being quite specific. It can be measured, and, it's relevant, or it's realistic. So this is the first thing to think about. Now, just to let you know that we've pulled together a little resource which Tori will send out to the group following this workshop. So it does have a bit of a process to help you think about, developing the goals. So it'll just give you some prompts and more information. So that's the first thing, have a plan. The second thing in goal setting is to start small. And this is where I said before that often we, can trap ourselves, because we come up with this lofty plan, but then we get demotivated because it's just too hard. And actually, it's no fun. Let's put it that way. Like it's not pleasurable in terms of the things that we become a bit resistant, because, there's not much fun in achieving this. There is a very cool author called James Clear, and I've got his website on the screen, so jamesclear.com. He has written a very cool book called Atomic Habits, I really recommend you, if you're interested in finding out more information around, I'm going to talk through more his material shortly, but definitely he provides a lot of free resources on his website, and it's worth checking out. But he's got this very cool concept of the power of tiny gains. And what his concept is that if you start small and do one small thing every day, or over a period of time, that the accumulation of that over a period of time is quite significant. And you could see the arrow that on the diagram here. So it's a look at it like interest in a bank, that the more that you bank that thing, that it is going to grow exponentially. So and we really underestimate the growth, I think, of those small steps. And I'm just going to talk through a bit more on that. So James Clear also talks a lot about, so in the power of tiny gains or start small, he talks about focusing on habits. So, we are habit creature humans. You think about how many things that we do on autopilot that are all just mini habits that we have. So if we want to start a new habit, we have to break it down and be thoughtful about what it takes to create a new habit. So this is his concept. And look, there's other authors that have ideas or theories, similar to James Clear. But I really like this one, and I can say that it has really worked for me personally over my years, and I've got a few examples to share with you. So in these small steps, what James Clear says is the first thing, you've got to break it down into a reminder. So if you want to start something, you've got to have something that reminds you to do it. The second thing is that you need to have a routine in place. So you need to decide what that routine is. So how do what process are you going to follow? The third thing that he talks about is that you need a reward. So that's about, rewarding yourself for achieving that, doing that activity. And, this is again around human behavior, is that we operate a lot on a reward system. So what I've found over time is sometimes the reward for people is the fact that they did the thing, so as they feel good that they have done it, but it gets you to think about, is there, maybe a specific reward that you might give yourself. So my example that I've got around here is that, years ago, I never used to eat breakfast in the morning. So I'd get up, go to work, I'd have a scone or a muffin for morning tea. And then I would notice that, over time I started to put on weight. So that, it was a wellness, or for me, it was like personal, putting on weight. So somebody said, like you should have a healthy breakfast. So what I did to break that habit is when I came down to the kitchen every morning, I got the breakfast ingredients set up right by the coffee, which is where, that was the first thing that I used to have in the morning, is a cup of coffee. And so I just couldn't avoid it. I had to see it, right? So so this is giving me the reminder that I need to do it. So, I would start, okay, I've got to make myself breakfast. And then I thought out the routine. I was getting ready to go for work. I needed it to be really quick. So I thought about I decided to eat porridge or oats. And so very quickly I bought those little sachets that are like 2 minutes. So there's no excuse, because I could make my breakfast in 3 minutes. And I could do that too while the jug was boiling for the coffee. So then I'd run my routine. And, I think back in those days, at the start out of this, my reward was probably, I said to myself, hey, twice a week you can have a scone or a muffin, so I sort of wasn't completely, stopping myself from having, all the good things, basically. So what I can tell you is that I've been eating porridge now, and I'd like to count the years, it's probably about 20 years, so I've just made it an absolute routine for myself. Now, James Clear will tell you, he's got this other concept of what he calls habit stacking. And so what that's about is that you build one habit onto another. So about 12 years ago, just got, like really bad sore neck, went to I think I went to an osteo or a naturopath, and anyhow, I got recommended to take supplements. And, if you've got to take medication or, something like that regularly, for me, it was pretty much, in the past, it could have been hit and miss. But what I did is that I then lined up for me to take, and I've been taking magnesium now solidly that whole time. So what I did then is lined up my supplements or my magnesium right next to my porridge in my cupboard. So now I've been, I don't know how many years, it's 12 years that I've been taking magnesium consistently. So the thing to think about is that how can you, if you want to start something, so say, for example, if it's exercise, like say, for example, the one of walk for 10 minutes, what have we got? Walk for 10 minutes 3 times a week, is that first of all, be thinking about, well, what's your reminder? What's actually going to remind you that you're going to go for a walk? One thing that you could do is put your walking shoes right next door to the front door, or you could put them so visibly that it's a reminder that you've got to go and do that. Secondly, the routine is you need to figure out how far you're going to go. And so say, for example, I'd said, walk for 10 minutes. Well, the routine is 10 minutes and it's going to be to this distance and back. And that sub goal might change over a period of time. You might decide to go to 15 minutes. So for the first month, you're going to do 10, then you might figure out, following that, hey, yeah, I've got that now for 10 minutes, now I can do 15. And then it's thinking about the reward. And what they do talk about is the reward is actually really important. So it's something to look forward to as well, too. So what that might mean is, you can have a cup of coffee when you come back, or a scone or a muffin, watch some TV, something where you go, actually, I'm going to reward myself for doing that. So this is to get you to think about what's something, I'm going to put it out there to you, is to think about, well, what's one habit that you could, take away from the session today to actually break down and have a little bit of a plan around getting that kick started. Because often people don't know where to start. And so this is just it's a suggested process. So, and what we know is the more that you do this, the more that, the easier it becomes, and it becomes more routine. So, I think they say at Outward Bound, they sort of put it out there often, they go 21 days, to implement a new habit. I don't know. I think it depends on actually what you're doing and how significant that is to make it a habit. Yeah, so James, what did he say? Daily habits, the tiny routines that are repeatable are what make big dreams a reality. So it starts small, be consistent, will set you in the right direction. So just a few other tips and techniques that I'd just like to put out there for you to consider. The first thing is to track progress, and a journal is one way of doing that, and it's quite cool too when you can look back. I think we often really underestimate the progress that we've made. We're so keen to get to the finish line that we get disappointed when there's no change. But I think by tracking progress is actually motivating. And also sometimes we might need to change it. The goal, it might not be working. So it's good to do a little bit of reflection. So a journal's useful. Of course, those people that are into technology, there's apps that can do it. I've got one of those Garmin, I've got a fitness watch that measures the steps that you do every day. And, I kind of track, that's a great way for me to track my progress on, how many steps I do. And I've sort of got, just a bit of a benchmark. Celebrate, as I said, just celebrate the small wins. I think, sometimes we're just too keen to get to the end. So and that's where, a journal is really useful. And I touched on this before about building flexibility. Sometimes things just don't work and they're not possible. We've got really big aspirations, things change. We need to have a bit of flexibility, but, it might be bringing the goal back and making it a bit more achievable. Maybe it's just a bit of a stretch in terms of what we're trying to achieve. Seek support. So just, share your goals with your family, friends, or support groups. That's motivation from other people and encouragement. And often you might need a bit of help, to achieve some of those things, and people might offer to do that. So yeah, so just think about, don't always have to go alone. Go public, and apparently in goal setting, this one is actually, it makes a difference to effective goal setting. Apparently, you are more likely to be successful if you tell other people about your goals, because that is kind of about making yourself accountable when you've shared it with another person. And I can tell you about a lovely young student that I had on an Outward Bound programs. She was so focused on achieving her goals. So what she did is when she went back she lived in a flat with other people. She wrote all her goals out on like a big A3 piece of paper. She got it laminated, and I think she did from memory, I don't know, about 5 or 6 versions. And then she went round her flat and she put them up on the wall in different rooms in the flat, and even in the bathroom, which was really funny because that just meant that other people had to go in and see her goals. But I think, just thinking about, and what's appropriate for you, but just if you see that all the time, then that's going to be a reminder. And also if other people see it, then that's, quite inspiring and motivating. And with the final one, reminding yourself of the benefits. So I think sometimes we can do a little bit of a grumble when we're having to do things, and the body might be sore because we're walking, or for me I probably had to get up early, to make my breakfast when I first started out. I need more sleep. But actually, when we think about the progress that we're making and what's the benefit, and where we're heading, then, that's what keeps us on track, because we know that we're doing it for a good reason. And I can tell you, I've got a suggestion up there of doing a vision board, and just a little bit of a shout out to Tori, because at our recent Arthritis New Zealand Hui, Tori ran this lovely session for the group, for the team, on doing a vision board, where people, thought about future goals for themselves, and went into, magazines and cut out different pictures to be able to describe, what that goal or what that vision looked like for them. So I just want to put it out there, because that's a wee bit of a suggestion. Well done, Tori. A little bit of a suggestion, and in the guidelines that we're sending out for anyone that's sort of a bit, likes to use IT or use tech, there's a bit of a link that we've shared in there where people can go and do that visually online. So I think, it's quite a motivating thing. So hey, look, so that's some things that I've seen have really worked. But I think, just getting to this point, I think it would be great to hear from you about what techniques or tools have helped you to stick to goals in the past. So these are, I've shared some things, but is there something different that people would like to share, or even share things, even if it's, repeated? That's great to hear, because then we know that, it might be useful. So if you could just put into chat, what tools or techniques have helped you? might just stop share for a minute. Oh, perfect. Good. Let's have a look. Oh, Caitlin, great. Having a shared goal with someone or with a group. Yeah. So doing it, I think it comes back to that kind of accountability and support from others, really big. Oh, alarm on the phone. Great, Shirlene. Alarm on my phone to remind me to stand at my desk rather than sit down. Very cool. Yeah, those micro pauses during the day. Oh, yeah, great, Ryan. Attaching it to an existing routine. Yeah, I think it really is helpful. Yeah, speaking to like-minded people. Thank you, Anne. Kerry, being accountable to others, turning up at the agreed time for exercise. Yeah, I don't want to let others down. So I'd say it's not peer pressure. Sometimes it can be a wee bit, but actually it's probably a good thing for us, actually. And I think this is where it comes back to what actually works for you and figuring that out. Tori, meal planning with my family. Yeah, on Sunday afternoon for the week. So getting everyone's input and buy-in to that. Yeah. Oh, Heather, I try to join laughter yoga on, oh my goodness, how amazing. There are around 150 people from around the world. Heather, how amazing. Heather, you might have to tell us a wee bit about that.
It was started by Dr. Madan Kataria, a
Yeah,
medical doctor in India back
yeah,
in 1995, just with half a dozen people out
yeah.
on a lawn. And now it's around the world in many countries. And because you're doing all the exercises, the breathing,
Yeah.
which is great, in through the nose, out through the mouth, I really enjoy it. And unless some days I can't go because I've got something else at that time, but
Yeah.
I do join as often as I can.
Well done. Thank you, Heather. That is so amazing. I'm absolutely going to check that out. Thank you
Good.
for sharing that. Hey, and I think that that's actually another good point about the routines and the habits, is that if you look for something that could cover off a number of aspects, so, as you say, the laughing yoga, you've got the breathing, you've got the exercise, and the ability, the laughing, which is joy, and, it brings pleasure to people. Like there's a combination of a whole lot of things in one activity.
Mm.
So it's quite smart about doing that rather than doing separate things. You're combining it into one activity.
Mm.
I love that. Thank you. I love it. Thank you. Oh, thank you for sharing. I'm going to check it out. Cool. So I've just got a couple. We've got Joy organising a friend to join you and put in the calendar. Yep. So the commitment, Alan wanting to gain the end result. That's right. So that's the real buy-in, to the benefits. And Kerry, a good reminder to pick activities that I think that's a nice way to end that too, which is about what you enjoy. And, one thing that might resonate for one person might be quite different for another. So, like say, for example, my husband loves to go to the gym. That's his thing for exercise, whereas, I'd much more rather enjoy doing yoga and walking. So, but, sometimes we might walk together. So that's, we like to mix it up as well, but just recognize that it's different things for different people. Great, thank you for sharing that. So if you think about it, there's a lot of knowledge and expertise within the group. So we'd like you to think back to that improvement that you identified at the beginning of the workshop. So you thought about something that you would like to be different or improve. We then want you to think about, well, what's one small step you can take following this workshop, or what's a key learning? So reflecting back on the, routines, that we talked about. How do you put habits in place? What makes effective goal setting? Even if it pans out to be actually to just keep on doing what I'm already doing, that's absolutely fine. But I will get you to think about, is there something that, we might have talked about today that will be useful for you to take forward for your own goal setting? So what was a key learning or takeaway?
For us, it was definitely like having this is a goal setting plan that seems to work. No matter what you're doing, whether it's about exercise or planning an event, like Alan's got ahead of him. But for me, I think I saw how important it was to actually be really specific, not only about the goal, but also about when you're going to do it.
Yeah, nice, Gary. Well done. Yeah, so breaking it down to that level. Well done, you.
We had a really good chat about what each of us did in our weekly routines already. And I really liked when you're talking about the visual reminder, and we I shared, of a visual reminder that I could do throughout this coming week. But it was really lovely to hear how other people's routines fell into place, and you can see that if you set a goal and then put that routine in place. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Thanks, Shirlene. Thank you.
In terms of the others, I think, yes, we all had a goal in mind, and some people already had sort of ideas of how to put that into, put the sort of into practice to make it happen. And for some of us, it was kind of a chance to kind of nut that out a little bit more, how to have a good reminder and where it might fit in the routine. But yeah, it felt like people were quite well advanced in our group, I thought. Some people. Yeah.
And sometimes it's just it's a reminder about that, isn't it? Like, we actually know this, and now it's come and do it.
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, well, we might last word then, Kevin, an opportunity. Would you like to do a little bit of a share?
I can talk about myself. I'm in 3 organisations. I'm the secretary and things like that, and I've got a bad habit of getting up in the morning and getting stuck into my emails and doing no exercise. So my goal is to break that habit and just leave my computer off until I've done the most important things first.
Very good. I love it. Very cool. And then you've gone public. And Tori takes a note of that, and she will ask you in the next workshop.
I'm not going to answer your emails. If you email me, I'll hold you accountable.
Yeah. Very good. I love it. And I guess that's the perfect example, isn't it? Of start small, but actually something that's really meaningful, and like those emails can wait an hour or whatever time. Yeah. But I think we're going to do a little bit of a wrap, because I think we're just before 8 o'clock, and I'll just hand it back to Tori. But I just wanted to say it was an absolute pleasure meeting you all, and thank you for your awesome input too. I think some of the suggestions that you came up with around goal setting and your insights, really valuable. So thank you. Lovely to meet you, and pass you back to Tori. And thank you, Tori, for organising this session.
Anyway, thank you everyone for attending tonight and coming on to our first Zoom workshop. We really appreciate your time and also your active participation. A massive thank you to the lovely, amazing Tania. We really appreciate your time.